so late, but it's fine. Everything is fine. Finally, all the alarm stuff here is done. I don't know if I talked about that yesterday, but the last couple of days I've been waking up to a fire alarm due to mandatory testing. It's been awful. I've been working so slow today, lost all track of time. But we made it. Somehow. Should I go like that today? No top two buttons. I'm feeling it. What's up, Deli Uric TMP? Welcome back. It's good to see you again. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. If I'm not, go ahead and correct me, because there's a non-zero chance that is completely inaccurate. And yeah, I'd feel bad. I would feel bad. Let's just hop right into it. We're late. Let's get it started. Let's get the show on the road. Today is Wednesday, March 25th, 2026. This is episode number 74 of Addressing the Issues. So I guess it's just fitting, as we commonly talk about, we are back in the Middle East for our main topic. Lots of other side topics today we'll go over. But it seems more and more countries want to be involved in this war. I'm not sure why. I don't even want to be involved myself. But there have been reports last night of sirens in both Bahrain and Kuwait last night due to drone incursions by the Iranian regime. Alongside these, yesterday Kuwait issued special instructions to its citizens in the case of a nuclear incident, telling them to stay at home and seal doors and windows in the case of a nuclear accident. This is due to recent strikes near Iran's Bushehr nuclear reactor, which has raised concerns about a potential radiological release into the Persian Gulf. This nuclear release, if it were to occur, doesn't just impact Iran, but Arab states as well, particularly the United Arab Emirates, taking a large brunt of the nuclear fallout. I guess hence why Kuwait has released this statement. They say most of it would dissipate in the atmosphere on the way there, but there still is a chance that they could get nuclear fallout if something were to happen in this plant. I guess a meltdown or just damage that would release radiation. So that's kind of a worry for, I guess, all involved. Nobody wants this to go nuclear. It seems that every day the chance increases, especially in this scape of modern war. But there are preparations being taken for nuclear fallout in the region. I guess another major part of this is that Iran has officially rejected the U.S.'s peace plan in the Middle East. They claim that Trump has been negotiating with himself. This is what my fear was. I believe it was yesterday, is that they were negotiating with somebody who wasn't even in power there. People argue there are people in power, they're just all dead. In this decentralized Iranian regime, the people in the, I guess, what we would call states are calling the shots now, especially military-wise, meaning you could negotiate with one state we'll say Baluchistan, but the rest of the country doesn't agree with those negotiations. There's talks that we're negotiating with a potential strongman, which I am not familiar with the guy. I guess the U.S. is, and maybe that's who we're negotiating with, is somebody who wants to come in and be the strongman of Iran. However, the party of the IRGC isn't on board with that, and they're still the ones essentially calling the military shots in this decentralized structure after Ayatollah Khomeini was assassinated. All power spread outwards to everybody individually, and they've been doing the attacks on their own, essentially coordinating to some extent, but in general it's like a dead man's hand, if you're familiar with that, in which you can decapitate the regime. However, the smaller parts are still working independently to ensure maximum destruction to the infidel, as you could call it, the enemy, which is the United States. Oh, I didn't even pull this up. Hope nobody's been in YouTube yelling at me. But they've rejected the U.S. peace plan, claimed that Trump has been negotiating with himself, which I've seen some stuff today that is quite alarming and could mean that he actually is. There are rumors today that the Iran war may lead to the last days of the petrodollar. I warned you of this, I think a week, or at the beginning of this week. I think even before I left, actually, that this could be the end of the petrodollar, especially if China were to step in. There's also what the demands of Iran would have included, meaning these demands, I'll read them to you here in a minute, are so far away from what the United States demands are that, I mean, even if we were negotiating, actually, we would have never came to a deal. These demands are, let's see, a new Strait of Hormuz framework, which would allow Iran to collect fees from ships that transit the waterway, much like Egypt's control of the Suez Canal currently. No free trade, big red line with the United States. It would end all the sanctions on Iran, lift all the sanctions, and it would guarantee that the war wouldn't restart, and an end to Israel's strikes on the Iran-aligned Lebanese militia Hezbollah. So Israel could no longer attack Hezbollah. Sanctions would need to be lifted on Iran. Iran could collect a toll on the Strait of Hormuz. And Iran would also be allowed to keep its missile program with no negotiations regarding the missile program. Once again, a huge red line for both the U.S. and Tehran with no overlap whatsoever. So it seems that even if we were negotiating in good faith, we never would have reached an agreement. As unfortunate as that is, the two parties at the table are just so far off. There were hopes, I believe it was Turkey, Pakistan, and who's the other? Maybe Oman. They wanted to bring both the U.S. and Iran to the table. I can probably find that. Give me a second. I hope I'm not saying the wrong countries. Well, I can't find that one anymore. Huh. I believe it was those three countries. It was three countries, majority Muslim, that wanted to have. Oh, it was Turkey, Egypt, and Pakistan. Sorry, not Oman this time. They wanted a U.S.-Iran meeting in the next 24 hours, or 48 hours, sorry. We are now less than 24 hours after that, and negotiations are completely off. Not great news. So Iran has officially rejected the peace plan, I guess. But I don't guess, because the two parties were so far away from an actual agreement. What's going on here? Oh, okay, we're good. And then last night, U.S. time, probably yesterday or this morning, in Iraq has essentially declared war on the United States and Israel. Their council, as they call it, stated that in the light of unjustified aggressions and grave violations of Iraqi sovereignty and the targeting of official security agencies, the council has decided to confront and repel military aggressions carried out through warplanes and drones that target the headquarters and formations of official security agencies, the Popular Mobilization Forces, and the rest of the formations by all available means in accordance with the principle of the right of response and self-defense. Well, it doesn't look like Iraq is going to help us out any. In fact, it seems that they want to start shooting down our aircraft. Wouldn't be the first time aircraft have been shot down in this war. We've lost a number already. I don't know what to make of this other than that this is probably very bad news. We were using Iraqi airspace to get to Iran via planes. We were using it, or I guess particularly Israel was using Iraqi airspace to launch missiles. If they're going to shoot these down now, that's going to make it a lot harder for us to reach targets in Iran. I don't think this was a development anybody was expecting, that we would be fighting Iraq as well in all likelihood. Because as soon as one plane gets shot down by Iraq, we will be bombing them further. So this war is slowly spreading. I told you before, Azerbaijan once in, probably not their best decision ever. Reported strikes on Turkey, or at least intended to strike Turkey. I guess that was taken down, that missile from Iran was taken down by Iraq, so maybe Iraq just wants to be completely neutral, yet shoot down anything over its airspace, which I can kind of understand. You probably don't want missiles flying over your head all the time, fighter jets flying over your head. But it's going to likely provoke a response from the U.S., and then at that point, in all likelihood, they will take up arms with Iran. So probably not the best news regarding this war. Especially if this war starts to creep in the neighboring countries, namely the threats Pakistan have given, that if it does reach Pakistan, they will just nuke India, and then the nuclear problem is a front. I mean, more than a front, it is, there will be nukes flying everywhere, more than likely. Because once one country does it, apparently it's just okay that everybody does it. And we'll probably see nukes everywhere from India to Iran to possibly even Ukraine. So, not what you want to see. There was a poll yesterday, I believe, let me see if I can find who did it. I think it was like the Democracy Institute. I had this pulled up. And now I don't, so that's cool. Let me see if I can find it one more time. But I believe it was from the Democracy Institute. It was reported by the Daily Caller. The Democracy Institute. There was a poll that claimed that a majority of GOP voters believed that Iran was not an imminent threat, with 63% of total respondents claiming that the Iran war was a costly mistake. The only faction of America that believed that the Iran war was imperative for national security was the MAGA faction of Republicans, which I do believe is entirely dead, as we'll get to later in the episode, which voted at a mere 54%, polled at a mere 54% that they believed that it was imperative for U.S. national security to go to war with Iran. This is compared to the MAGA segment. There are multiple segments that have developed in the Republican Party, which polled at only 24%, saying that it was a national security necessity. I believe they also have the America First faction, which I think I would align with these days, because there's nothing more important to me on this earth than this country. Let me see if I can find that one. 31% of self-classified American First Republicans believed that the war was needed for national security. Strikingly, actually, more than the MAGA movement. I guess they only really care about being healthy, which I respect that. It's probably not a bad move. Health is important. I guess, not dying in the Middle East kind of goes hand in hand with health, in a way. But we'll move, or actually before we move on, there's a report from CNBC that recession odds climb on Wall Street as economy shows cracks beneath the surface. This is due to the Iran war. The price of oil is mentioned. Job troubles are mentioned. I guess there's going to be plenty of jobs in the U.S. military soon, so I guess we'll all just sign up. Went to college to go die in Iran, I guess. That's just the natural progression of events. But yeah, I thought that was interesting that they cited the Iran war as a fear of a recession. Also, the thought of the petrodollar going away likely stokes those fears as well. But we'll move on. We'll go back to the Sheridan Gorman murder, which I was talking about yesterday. She was killed by an illegal alien in a Chicago park. Sanctuary city, sanctuary state, for what that's worth. But both the Chicago mayor, Brandon Johnson, and Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker have both deflected the blame for the murder of the 18-year-old college student Sheridan Gorman onto President Trump. I am shockingly confused as to how, given their sanctuary policies, their policies of letting these criminals out over and over again, and then the end result way too often is that somebody is killed because they think that they can get away with any crime. It's dangerous that they allow this to happen. Shockingly dangerous. Yet they do it over and over again, never face any repercussions. But this includes I believe it was the mayor of Chicago, refusing to apologize to Sheridan's family for the sanctuary policies that resulted in her death. Absolutely disgusting behavior by the mayor. But yesterday, Democrats doubled down on this. I guess this would be tripling down. Allowing it to happen in the first place is your first offense. Doubling down is refusing to apologize to the family for sanctuary policies. And then the third offense is a senator, U.S. Senator Chris Murphy, was on MSNBC yesterday, and he admits that referring to the Democratic strategy over the last 30 years, the people we care about most, the undocumented migrants, are the people that Democrats care about most these days, not their constituents, not people that should be voting for them. They care most about the undocumented migrants, which probably doesn't come as a shock to anybody with a brain these days, given their sanctuary city policies that they will stick up for murderers as opposed to law-abiding U.S. citizens who, for some reason, continue to vote for them. I'd call this, I guess, something along the lines of I don't want to say too extreme words here. Self-hate. It's self-hate if you continue to vote for these people and these are the results you get. It's some sort of cognitive dissonance that you don't understand that their policies are resulting in the death of Americans, which could be completely prevented if you just followed the law. However, people are, it's like white guilt of some sort, but you want the punishment to be death of you and your family. It's disturbing. This whole situation's disturbing. We should have learned the first time this happened with Lake and Riley, and now another family is going through the same grief of their daughter at the hands of an illegal immigrant who has been released multiple times before for crimes. And we continue to reward them with being allowed to stay in this country when they should be sent home. How many times does this have to happen? We're at too many right now. Does it need to happen 3 times, 5 times, 10 times, 100 times before we learn? And I'd argue it's probably happened more than 10 times. It's just that it's only happened, I guess, 2 times to college students. People who are trying to improve their lives and the lives of people around them, yet they are murdered by people who shouldn't have been here in the first place. I don't feel the need to rehash what I would do in regards to charging illegal immigrants. I've done that time and time again. But it goes something along the lines of every step that they took as in the U.S. illegally is another charge. I think it's fair. That way you can just do one and turn around and only be charged once. But we don't need to rehash that. It's just cognitive dissonance on so many levels. Dissonance that gets people killed time and time again here. But we'll move on to another Democratic policy, which is rather alarming. A report by James O'Keefe yesterday showed that the homeless in California are being paid to help with voter fraud. Go figure. I mean, the great state of California, as they call it, is not so great if you look into it. They are paying homeless people $2 to $3, or even sometimes in drugs. Yes, they are paying homeless in drugs to sign petitions using someone else's name. They're using the homeless for voter fraud and forgery in California, giving them drugs and money for drugs, effectively keeping them homeless. Maybe I'd feel differently if they were like giving them a recovery plan to do this stuff. However, they're using them on this sadistic level, in which perpetuates this homelessness problem for the benefit of the Democrats in power, Democrat policies. It's absolutely disturbing. You are perpetuating, if not fully contributing to the issue, which is homelessness and drug addiction, and using it for your own political gain. I guess this is, for some people, no breaking news. These are the ones that understand that California is the state that pays the most into fighting homelessness, combating homelessness, yet the problem in California only ever increases. So it does make sense in that state. Is this where this homelessness money is going to for forgery, voter fraud on these petitions? This is how you combat homelessness, and you pay them back with $2 to $3 for their next hit, or just drugs in general. It's evil. That's the best way to put it. Taking advantage of people, making them commit felonies for small amounts of drugs, which in any other state would be a felony in and of itself. It's a crazy situation over there. It truly is. I cannot believe that you can, in good conscience, get people to help your political movement through paying them in drugs to commit felonies for you so that you can advance your agenda, all while perpetuating their downward spiral. It's an evil situation going on over there. And I guess kind of shows you where the money for the homeless is going and why the problem is never solved. But we'll move on. There's to be more, stories on this in the near future. I'm going to surely follow along because I can't think of anything more evil than what's going on right now with that. I guess if the person that got them to do forgery injected them themselves with drugs, maybe. Absolutely crazy situation going on in California. What can you expect, though? What can you even expect? So we're going to move on to the strangest Twitter thread, X thread, I have ever seen on X, and that says a lot. I've looked through a lot of them, but this one comes from Kash Patel's girlfriend, Alexis Wilkins, in what I would call the new Russia hoax. In this thread, she claims that she's been falsely labeled a Mossad spy, and it is a foreign influence operation by Russia through General Flynn in the Catholics for Catholics network. The most bizarre part is the idea that the majority of Russians are Catholics, and that the Orthodox or Catholic somehow, and that the schism never existed, and it reads like some crazy conspiracy theory. It reads like either she hasn't slept in a long time, maybe, or something else. It also reads like she sent it to her boyfriend and said, yes, push this out, we want to discredit people. It's really strange. It's a really strange post. I'd beg you all to look at it, because I don't want to read it all here and get in trouble. I think I could without getting in trouble. And she talks about people being amplifiers of this foreign influence network under General Flynn, who is about the most patriotic person I think I've ever seen on social media. This thread, rant, I guess you could even possibly call it propaganda, names Joe Kent, the foreign counterterrorism intelligence chair under Tulsi Gabbard at Department of Homeland Security. Ivan Raiklin, which is a former Green Beret, probably, from what I've seen, a very patriotic guy. It also lists Candace Owens, which I guess you can make what you want of that. I think she tries her hardest, but, sometimes comes up a little short. And then links them to legitimate targets, legit targets, which is a Jackson Hinkle linked account. Jackson Hinkle is, I believe, one of the, I guess not a founder, but a representative of the American Communist Party. So, throwing all these people in together with him makes no sense to me. I've never identified Candace Owens, Joe Kent, Ivan Raiklin, General Flynn as communists, but somehow he is their communist connection. News to me. I don't think I've ever seen them interact with one another. Even maybe Candace Owens has interacted with Jackson Hinkle. Beyond that, I mean, this is the biggest stretch, and then it goes into a bigger one. She also tangentially relates Alexander Dugin, Putin's political philosopher or ideological philosopher, to the connection of these groups. And then at the end, she claims that all this has been done through the XAPI, I guess, statistics, I guess, what is it? It's a way to go through, like, who's interacted with posts and try to, analytics, that's what it is, analytics of posts and how they have been, I guess, in this case, amplified, as she calls it. However, she fails through this whole thing to acknowledge that a lot of people can think the same way, even if it's not how you expect them to think, want them to think. But it is the craziest post I've ever seen on this site, especially given the allegations against her and how people have been threatened to be sued for millions of dollars over her claimed ties to Kash Patel and others. But I beg you to look through this. And, at the end she says, I'm not saying anything. I ran data. I'm asking you to draw your own conclusions. So I did. And my conclusion is this reads like the most schizophrenic thing, and not in a good way, of my life. I said it. There you go. It reads like the most schizo post of all time, and I've seen some schizo posts. But But we'll move on from that. Look into it if you want. The whole situation's weird with that. I mean, I guess if you get free flights from the FBI jet and, have FBI people called from your boyfriend to Uber you around, I guess you're willing to do stuff like this. I don't think the relationship is organic by any stretch of the imagination. I don't know how anybody could. I truly don't. But we'll move on from this, and we'll move on to the Delta Airlines story, which Delta Airlines has canceled all special privileges for members of Congress during the government shutdown while TSA is unpaid through Homeland Security. And they're actually allegedly pressuring other airlines to follow suit, not giving Congress any special privileges, allowing them to bypass lines, which they were able to do with Delta until they decided you're not paying the people at the gate, you're causing people to miss flights, you're causing them to show up. I believe the longest I've seen is like 6 hours early. Now I normally show up 2 hours early and wait in the chair for probably an hour just outside my gate in case anything is to happen. Maybe it leaves early. I've never heard of that, but maybe the plane decides it's going to leave early. I better be there. Showing up 6 hours early, I think I've also seen maybe 8 or 9. Absolutely absurd. You might as well just pack up your car and drive at that point if it's not completely across the country. But I think this is a good move by Delta, looking out for the people that help them out, TSA, no matter how good or bad TSA is. They do deserve to get paid for the work they do, along with DHS, the rest of DHS, ICE, Border Patrol, you name it. They all deserve to be paid for the work they do, yet they're not being paid. So why should we grant special privileges to the people that aren't paying them? I fully agree with Delta's decision. I think it's morally the correct thing to do at this point, especially using what leverage they do have, which is giving special benefits, taking those away from the people who are punishing people for showing up to work every day and doing their job, which TSA has been until recently because they're quitting and calling out sick recently. And I guess you can guess why. They're not being paid. If you weren't being paid for your job, would you be fully committed to it? I'd argue probably not. But apparently they're just expected to be wage slaves with no wage, which is, I mean, I wouldn't do it either. At least I make a little bit of money from this. The government can't lock me out from this yet. But we'll move on. I told you I'd talk about the death of MAGA, which was ever so clear last night. Florida's District 87 special elections were last night. This is Trump's home district, contains Mar-a-Lago, some of the richest areas in Florida, to be honest. I think you could probably only gerrymander a richer district in like Miami Beach in Florida. Maybe around the Tampa area. I don't even know that they're as rich as the Palm Beach crew. This is Trump's home district. I actually voted in this election. I voted for the guy who lost, John Maples. Yeah, he lost. The Republican lost in Trump's home district last night. It was flipped blue. This was a plus 11 stronghold during the 2024 presidential election, voting plus 11 for Trump. In 2024 as well, the state representative, Mike Caruso, won House District 87 by 19 points. plus 11 in local government. Yesterday it flipped blue. I've been telling you, the enthusiasm of Republican voters is below, through the floor, underground, probably sitting somewhere in the mantle right now. We feel betrayed. I think that's the best word for it. And this is not even the only special election that was lost by a Republican in a Republican district. I don't remember the other one. Maybe I can find it. I don't think it's on this. It was also in Florida as well, though. It was a Tampa Senate seat. Okay, that's what it says. That was held by Lieutenant Governor Jay Collins until last August. So, 0 for 2 in Florida in Republican districts. Both of these candidates actually were endorsed by President Trump. This shows you how little his endorsements carry. I think I've talked about this. I've talked about it in private at least. It carries no weight anymore to be endorsed by him, especially after these decisions he's made regarding Iran, not making things more affordable, covering up the Epstein thing in public opinion at least. His cabinet has in public opinion circles. So everybody feels like they've been completely backstabbed. Enthusiasm's not there, and he's endorsed. I mean, he endorses anyone. There was talks that he was going to endorse the dude that won't sign the SAVE Act in Texas, John Cornyn, as opposed to somebody challenging him in the primary. I believe that's still going to a runoff, if I'm not mistaken. I don't know if that's occurred yet or not. I think it would have popped up on my feed if the runoff in Texas had already occurred for that Senate primary. But he endorses anyone at this point. I mean, we're like probably a couple weeks away from him just starting endorsing like random Democrats that are like socialists. I wouldn't be surprised. And I don't think anybody else would. I mean, anybody can get a Trump endorsement if you just send them a letter, unless your name is like Thomas Massey or Marjorie Taylor Greene, who have stood by Trump and have some of the most conservative voting records in Congress. Unless you're one of them, just send out a post on X, or I guess probably the best way to reach him is Truth Social. That is his little echo chamber. Go on there and say, hey, will you endorse me? I don't even think you have to be running. Just say endorse me for like branch manager of Taco Bell. And you might get one, honestly. They're being thrown around. They mean nothing. And this even more so proves it. I mean, an absolute slaughter in the special elections here in Florida. And I can't say I'm surprised. I mean, as unenthused as I am, I went out and voted. But that means that there are people who are much more unenthused than me with the Republican Party right now. And that's got to be scary to some of you guys. 2026 isn't looking good. It looks like we are going to get slaughtered. Even after all the redistricting, I've seen people talk, Republicans will be up plus 20 after redistricting. That it doesn't matter if you redistrict and gerrymander all you want. If nobody shows up from your party, you don't win. And the Democrats will continue to cheat because we don't have the SAVE Act. It's going to be a slaughter. I had this feeling, possibly, or that likely we'd hold on to at least the Senate. I don't see that as very likely anymore either. I think we lose both the House, both the Senate, especially given the data set from this special election. Losing 19 points in 2 years is almost unheard of. And it's just enthusiasm. Nobody's enthused. We feel betrayed. And apparently people feel more betrayed than even I do, which is, like I said, surprising, terrifying, all in one. I want to see if I missed anything else I had meant to comment on today. Yeah, there's also this rumor Tulsi Gabbard is running a shadow operation out of DHS or whatever. I don't think it has any credibility. There's the talks about going to the moon from NASA Administrator Jared Isaacman. Sounds fun and all. We're really poor. Can we just fix some stuff at home first and then spend all the money on NASA? There's also New Mexico jury found MAGA guilty of exposing children to sexual predators and hit them with $375 million in damages. Meta is challenging that, of course, because they've never done anything wrong. I mean, it's like Roblox or like Discord. It's just like vile stuff. I might go over the whole medical insurance scam tomorrow. I think we'll hold off on that. There's also questions about the January 6th pipe bomb case that keep popping up. Nobody thinks Brian Cole Jr. did it. He doesn't even look like the outline of the person that did, and we're just expected to believe it. There are the claims that the SAVE Act will be pushed in budget reconciliation, which reportedly from people of Congress said that it was last year that they wanted voter ID and and budget reconciliation last year. You see how that went. But they do want their break. They want a little vacation. They also want to jump to the front of the lines on airports. Meanwhile, we haven't passed the SAVE Act. They're still getting paid while public servants aren't. I mean, absolute hot mess here in America. And you wonder why plus 19 Republican districts are flipping blue. There's no enthusiasm left. The enthusiasm has been zapped. Let's do one more check here and see if anything has popped up. Russia is now sending drones to Iran. That's neat. That's just neat. Yeah, people are predicting a disaster in the midterms. I just said that. It's not hard to see. The writing's on the wall at this point. You can't betray everybody and expect people to stick by you. You can't say no new wars and start a new war. You can't claim that you're going to deport all the illegal immigrants and then say, oh, but we're not now. I mean, nobody believes you anymore. You've eroded all trust and credibility. And then expect people to show up for a special election. Expect people to show up for midterms. You've lost your mind. That's basically it for today. We're going to go into our newest segment, which is reading a scripture from the Bible every day. Is this thing going to work? Well, the sun's being rough to me right now. I think that should hold us up for a few minutes. But yeah, new part of the show. You can look back the Monday if you want the full explanation. But today we're going to go back into the book of Matthew. Matthew 24, 32 through 35. This was brought up at my Bible study last night, and I really enjoyed it. I thought it pertained to basically what we've been talking about in relation to good, evil, how to escape this madness. There's only one way out, I've told you. It's the Lord. It's Jesus Christ. But it says, now learn this lesson from the fig tree. As soon as its twigs get tender and its leaves come out, you know that summer is near. Even so, when you see all these things, you know that it is near, right at the door. I tell you the truth, this generation will certainly not pass away until all these things have happened. Heaven and earth will pass away, but my words will never pass away. Isn't that the truth? All this is temporary, guys. All this is temporary. I can sit here and fight for the truth as hard as I want on this earth. Nobody will ever hear it. But you know what the truth is? You know where it never goes away? Is in heaven. So, I hope you will consider this, anybody that's still viewing. Consider giving your life to Christ. I can give you all the information on this earth that you desire. You know, the one thing I can't give you, forever. And that's what this is about. If I can just lead one person to forever, it'd make all this worth it, I do believe. I truly do. So yeah, thank you guys for sticking around to the end. Pick up the Bible yourself, read it. It's the best word, the best storybook you'll ever find. It truly is. It's a great way to live your life, and a great way to ensure that your suffering does one day end. And it ends in heaven. It ends at the throne of Jesus Christ, our Savior. He'll stop our suffering. He will. That's all we have for today. I ask you guys, like on whatever platform you're on, YouTube, Rumble. I still don't think you can like on Kick. I don't think that's ever going to be a feature. I think it's just viewership and maybe donations on Kick, subscribing on Kick. Still trying to figure out that platform. Not very familiar with it, but maybe that's something I can work on as well. Make sure you guys are liking, subscribing on YouTube, following on Rumble, following on Kick. This is the new comment. Somebody drop a verse that you'd like to see me cover tomorrow. I'll look for that, actually. And actually, I will look for it this time. I'm not going to say I'll consider it and then never consider it. I'll actually look this time. I was probably wrong what I did, but I think it was right. I truly do. I think that's going to be the call to comment today. Make sure you guys are sharing this. More viewers is always good. It helps me with the algorithm. Your viewership, I guess, is the most important, so thank you guys for sticking around. I enjoy having you guys hanging out in here. I guess it's not the greatest time to chat when you're driving home from work, but, if you do, pull up at a red light and you're like, hey, I'd like to hear Sam's thoughts on this, him to comment on it. Feel free to chat. I respond to him. Even Deli Uric on Kick. Shout out him. He gave me good vibes at the beginning of the episode, so I really appreciate that. I appreciate everybody sticking around till the end. Make sure you guys are sharing, subscribing, liking. We'll be back live tomorrow, hopefully at 4:45. We started at, 5:05 the day? Criminal offense, I know. I was just a lot I was pulling through and not on too much sleep because they just love blaring the fire alarms here at 8 in the morning. I love that for me. Actually, it was a little bit later. It was right around 9, but I was not prepared. I was fully not prepared. I was wanting another hour of sleep. I didn't get it. But yeah, that's it for today. I'll talk to you guys tomorrow, 4:45. Hopefully, won't be so late. Goodness, today was a criminal offense. But we'll sign off here. To my people on the East Coast, I hope you get home safe. To my people further west, I hope you finish up your workday strong and get home safe as well. Talk to you guys very, very soon.